At 14:30 hours, Ukrainian operators launched what should have been a routine strike mission. Within minutes, it would turn into something else entirely. A Shark D reconnaissance drone was orbiting above a damaged bridge, a perfect choke point. Twisted concrete, collapsed guardrails, steel beams bent downward toward the river below. It was the kind of crossing every logistics officer feared and every artillery commander depended on. Below the drone, a Russian convoy crept forward at 15 kilometers per hour. Slow, careful, methodical. At its center, a towed 152mm howitzer dragged its weight across shattered asphalt, its crew exposed as they navigated debris and broken geometry. On paper, it was an easy target, except the drone wasn't hunting anymore. It was being hunted. Every time the Shark D transmitted video back to its operators, it wasn't just sending images. It was broadcasting its position into the electromagnetic spectrum. Radio waves don't respect camouflage. They don't care about paint, foliage, or shadows. To electronic warfare systems, transmission equals presence. To Russian sensors, the drone was effectively shouting, and the Russians were listening. Between the Ukrainian operators and their target sat 3 layers of Russian defenses, systems that had already destroyed more than 30 Ukrainian drones in the same sector over the previous 2 weeks. Some had failed silently, simply falling out of the sky. Others had vanished mid-feed, erased so completely that no wreckage was ever recovered. The most dangerous system in that stack wasn't even designed to fight drones. The Zoopark counter-battery radar had been built for a different war. Its original mission was to track artillery shells in flight, calculate their point of origin, and direct return fire. But Russian operators had adapted. Drone control signals were still radio waves, and radio waves could be detected, measured, and traced. The process was brutally efficient. Detect the signal, take a bearing, draw a line. One bearing meant nothing, but multiple bearings taken from different positions intersected at exactly one point. Your position. 3 minutes later, artillery arrived. The Ukrainians knew the statistics well. Transmit from the same spot for more than 5 minutes, and there was roughly a 40% chance you wouldn't be transmitting again. Ever. They also knew the Russians didn't need to see them. No drone overhead, no visual confirmation, just math, steel, and time. The Russians even had a name for it, counter-reconnaissance by fire, so the Ukrainians adapted. They frequency hopped across 128 channels every second, never staying long enough for pattern recognition to settle. They transmitted in microbursts, 0.3 of a second, then silence for 30 seconds, just enough to maintain control. Not long enough for Zoopark to build a firing solution. Every transmission was timed, every pause deliberate, every second measured against known Russian reaction cycles. Then the situation worsened. Thermal sensors picked up a Russian Orlan-10 reconnaissance drone approaching from the north. That changed the rules. The Orlan-10 wasn't hunting vehicles. It was hunting people. Its thermal camera could detect human body heat from 2 kilometers away, even through light cover and broken terrain. Its presence meant the Russians suspected operators nearby and had escalated from electronic detection to physical search. The Ukrainian team had to choose, keep eyes on the target, or disappear under thermal blankets and go blind. They chose to hide, but before going dark, they needed to pass everything they had to the strike team 4 kilometers away. Standard procedure would have been a direct radio handoff. Coordinates, timing, vectors, confirmation. That would have meant 2 transmitters active at once, 2 electromagnetic signatures, 2 targets. Instead, they used a workaround that had been practiced but rarely needed. The Shark D dropped a digital breadcrumb, one encrypted data packet transmitted on 433 megahertz, a frequency the Russians weren't monitoring for drone control. Inside it were GPS coordinates, convoy speed, wind data, bridge geometry, and the optimal attack route calculated against known jamming zones. Transmission time, 0.3 seconds. Too brief to triangulate, too encrypted to decode. On the wrong frequency to even notice. The strike team received it instantly. The convoy was already halfway across the bridge. They had maybe 10 minutes before it cleared the choke point completely. After that, the howitzer would be dispersed, repositioned, and far harder to kill. Between the strike team and the target sat 3 overlapping layers of Russian electronic warfare that had already proven lethal. At 14:45, the FPV operator powered up. 7-inch carbon fiber frame, 2 kilogram shaped charge, battery reading 16.8 volts. Enough for 7 minutes of flight in ideal conditions. The target was 4 minutes away. The first 2 kilometers were smooth. The drone skimmed 3 meters above the ground, hugging tree lines, shell craters, and collapsed buildings for cover. The video feed was flawless, 1080p at 60 frames per second. Every detail crisp, every movement visible. Then exactly 2 kilometers out, the image began to tear apart. Static lines, dropped frames, compression artifacts where none should exist. The Repellent 1 jammer had activated. 400 watts of electromagnetic noise poured into the air. The drone's transmitter produced milliwatts. It was like whispering into a hurricane. The operator switched frequencies to 433 megahertz. The image returned barely, grainy, delayed, 10 frames per second. At 1.5 kilometers, even that began to fail. This wasn't one jammer, it was layers. Vehicle-mounted systems near the convoy, portable trench units every few hundred meters. And somewhere behind the lines, a deeper area denial emitter saturating everything in between. An electronic dead zone. But the drone had an escape plan, an onboard AI module trained on thousands of hours of combat footage. If it could see the target clearly for 2 seconds within 400 meters, it could guide itself to impact without human input. The problem was getting there blind. The operators switched to dead reckoning, last known position, convoy speed, elapsed time, compass bearing 073, altitude 3 meters. Speed 45 kilometers per hour, slower than optimal, but slower conserved battery while flying blind. Then, for a single frame and 1/60th of a second, the video flickered back. The bridge, 800 meters away. The truck exactly where the math said it would be, grinding across exposed steel beams. Then, static returned. That one frame was enough. At 3 kilometers, the video came back again, briefly, and in those seconds, they saw it. A Russian interceptor drone 20 meters up, already diving, closing fast, combined speed nearly 280 kilometers per hour, impact in under 4 seconds. The Ukrainian drone broke hard left, 5 Gs. Motors screamed as the frame flexed under asymmetric thrust. The Russian interceptor overshot, forced to circle back. Battery voltage dropped sharply. The Russian climbed for altitude. The Ukrainian couldn't match it. Too heavy, too slow. Battery already stressed, so the operator did the one thing the interceptor pilot didn't expect. He cut throttle completely. The drone dropped like a stone. 2 seconds of free fall. No thrust, no control. Pure gravity. Then power came back in carefully, just enough to arrest the fall at 3 meters altitude. The interceptor missed. Now both drones were low, slow, and bleeding energy. A turning fight. The Russian drone had the advantage. Better power-to-weight ratio, faster acceleration, cleaner control authority. Each aggressive maneuver drained the Ukrainian battery faster. This was no longer about precision, it was about survival. Battery voltage slipped below safe margins, motor temperatures climbed, control latency increased with every correction. One mistake now wouldn't mean mission failure, it would mean capture. That could not happen. The Ukrainian had one move left, a vertical reversal, full throttle straight up. The drone climbed hard, trading all forward speed for altitude. At the apex, it hung for a fraction of a second. Throttle cut, full yaw, nose straight down, collision geometry. The Russian committed. At the last possible moment, the Ukrainian rolled away. The Russian missed again. By the time it recovered, the Ukrainian drone was already leveling out at 5 meters altitude, racing toward the bridge. The entire dogfight lasted 18 seconds. 30% of the battery was gone. Only 8% remained. The truck was nearly clear. Then the gunfire started. An AK-74 fired short, controlled bursts. One round struck the frame, severing power to a motor. The drone lurched sideways, but stayed airborne. A shotgun followed. Buckshot spread wide. 2 pellets hit, one destroyed a motor completely, another ruptured the battery casing. Voltage collapsed. 2 motors left. The AI struggled to maintain lock as the image warped and flickered. 15 meters, Orlan-ten. One soldier couldn't depress his weapon far enough. The drone struck at 14:49 hours and 47 seconds. The shaped charge punched into the ammunition. 8 artillery shells detonated simultaneously. The truck lifted, tipped, and slid off the broken bridge into the river below. The explosion did not end the fight. It changed its shape. Within minutes, Russian command channels lit up. Reports conflicted. Some said the bridge had collapsed entirely. Others claimed only the convoy was lost. Drone feeds replayed the impact frame by frame, frozen on the moment steel and fire disappeared into smoke. What mattered was simpler. The crossing was gone. And with it, an entire logistics timetable. That howitzer had been scheduled to support a coordinated fire mission later that afternoon. Without it, batteries were retasked, ammunition rerouted, timelines slipped. Those delays rippled outward, convoys rerouted, units waited longer in exposed positions, fire missions were shortened or canceled, all because one drone made it through. Russian electronic warfare teams repositioned jammers, interceptor patrols widened, orders went out to tighten engagement rules on unmanned targets. But the Ukrainians had already moved. The operators were gone, equipment packed, thermal blankets folded. Positions abandoned. Above the bridge, the Shark D remained on station just long enough to confirm secondary effects. No recovery effort, no replacement convoy, only smoke drifting east with the wind. That feed went dark too. Back at Ukrainian command, analysts replayed the mission frame by frame. Battery performance, AI acquisition, human reaction time, small arms engagement geometry. Each detail became a lesson, not a story of victory, a manual for survival. For the Russian soldiers who survived, the lesson was different. They had jammers, they had interceptors, they had guns, and still, the drone got through. If one could do this, others would follow. This is modern warfare, invisible, layered, decided in seconds by operators who never see each other. Somewhere, right now, another operator is watching a screen, waiting for the numbers to line up, waiting for their moment. Tap to watch for more.